Okay, folks, Pat here. Along with me is Adam. Adam has a question for me, so we're just going to get into it. I'm going in blind as usual. I kind of like doing videos like this. So day traders, listen up. This is all for you guys. Let's rock and roll.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was talking with my neighbor the other day, and he's kind of like, "Well, what do you do?" And it's always kind of an awkward question, when you try to describe day trading and stuff. But I kind of came around, and second people hear trading, they all somehow equate the word investing, which
Yeah.
is different in a lot of ways. And so they immediately says, "Well, I've got $100,000. What should I do with it?" And so that, just he's just looking for advice. He wants to put it somewhere. He doesn't want to obviously risk it, but he doesn't want it sitting there. So I thought that would be a really good question to ask you. What is it? What would you do if you've got 100,000? Maybe you have it somewhere you don't like it, and you see that there's risk involved with that money. Like, hopefully it wasn't in Nvidia or something, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do with it?
Okay, so 100 grand. If somebody has that, that's a pretty substantial amount. And again, I think it really needs to start with risk. What are you willing to risk? Because a lot of people with investment, you're not guaranteed anything, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there that think investment comes with basically it's a guarantee that you'll get your money back. And that's not the case. In fact, most investments fail, right? You may recoup. I shouldn't say never. It shouldn't go to zero. So it's not like you're risking the full $100,000, right? So the first thing is a question that I would throw back at him is like, what's your risk? What's your risk tolerance? Like, are you looking for safe or are you looking to make a bigger score? Because some people are very comfortable with like, hey man, if it works, it works. Like I've taken trades on the investment side where I've thrown some money at it. And if it works, it works. If it doesn't, I will not lose a single minute of sleep. I'm okay with that because the payoff, the reward is much bigger than basically the risk. You're looking to 10x your money, 20x your money on something where if it hits 10 years from now, like you're pretty set up. So that's kind of first. I think the next thing that I would say is I got asked a really similar question, right? And I'm glad that, your neighbor here obviously knows you and trusts you. And if it's the neighbor I'm thinking of, I know you've told me a couple of stories about him through the years.
Yeah,
and he chooses his circle very wisely. And that's kind of the next thing that I would put, maybe not to him, but just like others that might be asking the similar type of question. Be careful who you ask. Now I'll tell you guys a story. So I have a really tight circle, and the people that I have in my circle, I will generally ask questions and look for a response at the beginning of the relationship or friendship. Obviously, you're trying to get to know the person, and I don't ask basic questions. I ask questions where it's like, it's almost, this is going to come off a little weird, but this is just how I roll. I'm going to ask them a question that is almost like a setup, not in a bad way, but I want to see what type of character they have, right? So it was a friend of mine in LA, an extremely wealthy person, very successful. So I wanted to pick his brain a little bit. Of course, that's who you should be asking these sort of questions to, right? And I asked him, I asked him the exact same question. Where would you put 100 grand? Right? Now he ended up saying, well, I would invest in diamonds. Well, that's what he does for a living. And it kind of bothered me a little bit. Because that's probably the last thing that I would, because the little bit that I do know about the jewelry industry, specifically diamonds, the grading process is very difficult. And yes, obviously he would be there to guide me. But if you don't it's not like diamonds appreciate. The reason why people would invest in diamonds or jewelry of any kind, but mainly like stones, is to hold money. It's not necessarily to make money. It is about holding your money. Now, that wasn't the question. The question was invest, not hold. Those are two very, very different questions that can be asked. And if you're looking to hold your money, if you have a reputable jeweler that is in the industry on the upper echelon there, yes, you can absolutely buy a stone and it will hold its value. Like basically almost no matter what happens. It's a very safe way. Again, and I use that term loosely because you need to ask the right person. Because again, if you go in and you have $100,000, right? You want to buy $100,000 stone. You don't want to buy an $80,000 stone for 100 and lose that 20, or even 90 and lose that 10, right? Mm-hmm. And there's very few people out there that would, as a friend, right, which is something I would absolutely do. I would not take a cut on it. I would know that that stone is worth $100,000, or maybe even like I got a really good deal on a stone. I'll give it to my boy, right? And immediately make $5,000 on it or something like that, where it's like now you have that little bit of wiggle room or something, right? Mm-hmm. That's me though. But it's, I guess, to kind of like circle back, it's about being very careful who you ask this type of advice to, because people are going to give, the majority of people give pretty bad advice. We've done videos on this before. So yeah, that's kind of where I would start. And I think like after risk, we need to know where we are. Where are we right now? Stocks would pretty much be off the table. Like investing in the stock market right now would be off the table. And you know what? Just for the sake of argument, keep it nice and clean. I'm going to share my screen. Give me 2 seconds. So right now we are at all-time highs. Okay. So we're at all-time highs. We've double topped. It doesn't mean that the market can't go higher. It absolutely it can, right? It can. But what we've been noticing on the charts lately is a lot of traps, a lot of long traps, right? We've seen this now for about almost a month straight now, where they're trying to trap retail traders into thinking that the market will go higher. Why? Because of Warren Buffett and his, you got to buy markets making new highs. But they don't know what that means, the average retail trader. So they get in before without confirmation, and then they get smoked. So there's a lot of dumb money in this market right now that's buying this market. What else do we have, Adam? Well, we're coming into an election year, right? And this can go both ways. And generally speaking, coming into an election, and this is almost like clockwork, we could consolidate for a little bit, but I think we're going to start downtrending into November, the beginning of November for the election. And depending on who gets in, if one person gets in, the one side gets in, it is absolutely, this market will tank. It will 100% tank. And if the other side gets in, just like last time, it will rally. Okay. Now there's other variables there. There's a lot of inflation we have to deal with. There's a lot of things that need to be set correct in order for it to rally. But I think we do get that beginning, almost like that honeymoon period rally. But that's way too much of a gamble. There's too many variables. I wouldn't touch, as an investment, I wouldn't touch this market with a 10-foot pole. Not interested in it from investment, right? So now what else could we talk about on the normal side of when people talk about like investment? I want to go over the things not to do right now. So a lot of people, they'll start hearing things because it's all over the place again, is cryptocurrency, specifically Bitcoin or Ethereum. Now, I don't care if you think that this is going to be the saving grace. It isn't, by the way. Bitcoin is not. The government will never allow this to happen and take over fiat currency. It's not going to happen, boys and girls. I know people think it is. People will say, they'll make the argument that, well, they can't stop us. Okay, so how do you buy goods then? it would basically, your way of thinking, it would turn into the barter system. But instead of bartering for goods, you would basically purchase a loaf of bread or whatever with Bitcoin. And again, people will make the argument, well, right now I can pay my bills with Bitcoin. And yeah, you can right now, but it's going to transition into more of a Fed token. It will be Fed regulated. You're up against the central banking system, and a lot of very uneducated or undereducated people that get into Bitcoin or cryptocurrency in any way, they don't understand the power of the central banking system. The central banking system, I mean, why do you think, and this may ruffle a few feathers, but why do you think Putin is the devil and Russia has always been the devil? Well, they don't subscribe to the central banking system, and that's one of the reasons. I hate to break it to you folks, but that is one of the reasons. Now, I'm not saying he's a good man or anything like that. I'm just saying that that's why he has a massive and will always have a massive target right between the eyes, because he's not a part of the central banking system. There's another reason why I would say don't get into cryptocurrency. I mean, there's a lot of evidence that's starting to come out now that with the back doors into the blockchain, it has CIA written all over it, man. Now, people can say I'm wearing a tinfoil hat. Just go ahead, take a look for yourself. It's going to take you in a pretty deep rabbit hole that's really interesting. And it's not just it's not like it's not backed by actual real world evidence. It absolutely is backed by real world evidence. This isn't conspiracy. It's pretty wild, including the name of the creator. That's an anagram, and it's pretty interesting. And that's on CIA paperwork and the whole nine. It's interesting. Do I like cryptocurrency at all? Nope. I think it's short term, very short term, which would lead me to the next question that I would then ask your friend. What type of timeline? Timeline's a big thing, and I'll tell you why. After dealing with traders now for 8 years and training at this point 35,000 traders, I know that time frame is a big deal. And we can take some swing trades that we've taken in our swing trading service, Revolution Swing, for example. That is a swing trade. A swing trade is longer than 1 day. And more specifically, like we're looking to hold it for a week or a month or longer. Anything over, I would say probably like 4 to 6 months, you're starting to get into like short-term investment and not swing trading. It's very different. But even on the swing trading end of things, there's a lot of people that they can't handle even holding 1 day and the swings in the market for 1 day. And it's like, well, what are you doing? It's a swing trade. Let it fucking work, right? And then they stop out before it has room to run. And then they stop out and then it runs. I see it all the time. And people get all pissy about it. And it's like, but did you follow your trade plan? No, I can't help you with that. You got to follow those trade plans, right? So it's about time frame. How long is he looking to hold? Because there would be different things that I would do with 100 grand for a 6-month hold, a 5-year hold, a 10-year hold, a 20-year hold, right? How old is he? How much time does he have before retirement? Or maybe he's retired and just looking, because really then you're looking at maybe a 5-year investment at most, right?
Right.
And if it's a younger person, let's say in their 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe even into their 40s, it would have to almost be the cutoff. Then we can get into 20-year plans. It's very different. So a lot of people, when they ask these questions, they're very difficult to answer. That's kind of what I'm getting at with all of these extra questions. If somebody doesn't take the time to like go through all of these little things, it's probably because they're going to give you some bullshit cookie cutter, invest in crypto, throw it in SPY, just throw it in the market. Look at what the market's done, right? Like All of these things come into play.
Well, and
Now,
the flag would be, because a lot of times what people would do is just like your the example you gave, they'll just pair it back what they do or what they know or what they like, and they
yep.
won't ask the questions you're just asking. It'll be like, well, I am in Bitcoin, so buy Bitcoin, or well, I'm in real estate, so buy real estate, or it'll just be a very one-dimensional, here's what I do, so you should do it too.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Then you're just in an echo chamber.
Absolutely. And you don't want that. Like $100,000. It's when somebody comes to me with a question like that, I take it as a really big responsibility, because a lot of people will still hold you and your advice accountable. So you better make sure that you've covered all of your bases. And it's a lot of money, right? So you don't want to give bad advice. Some people don't care if they give bad advice, right? Say, well, why'd you listen? Right. So you got to take it pretty seriously too. But that's kind of a whole other topic. Now, there's one thing that I'm going to tell, and this is for everyone, not just for your neighbor. The one piece of advice I was given by the friend that said that about the diamonds, and I didn't like that because that's what he does. And it's like, I don't know. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. There's a little more to the story. I'm not going to get into it on this shit, but you understand. He did tell me one thing though, how he made his money. And it was a really interesting conversation because I had no idea that this is how he made his money. He made his money via parking lots. A parking lot, ladies and gentlemen, is the best investment you can absolutely make. So when you buy a parking lot, you're basically just waiting to get bought out. Real estate land inside cities is extremely valuable because you can't make any more land, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that right there in itself, you're just waiting to get bought out. But let's say it takes 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, hell, 40 years, depending on your age, for you to get bought out. Well, it is a business that has the lowest overhead on the planet. What do you need to do? Well, if you do it cash only, which is pretty nice, we know for certain reasons why a cash only business is great. But you're going to have one person handling the money. That's it. You have one employee. Well, maybe two with shift change or whatever. You know what I'm getting at. Maintenance, there is none. What do? Paint some lines, put up a fence. That's it. So one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is get a fucking parking lot, man. That's the money right there. That is a secret weapon right there. Now, where could you buy a parking lot? Well, you can't go to fucking New York City and buy a parking lot, ladies and gentlemen, for $100,000. Okay. But what you can do is you can search smaller up and coming towns that are starting to grow into cities. You have to have the gift of foresight. You got to be able to see 10, 15, 20 years in the future, or else this type of investment won't work, right? And then again, you're just waiting to get bought out because you would be able to pick up a parking lot and you'd probably still have money left over for that. Parking lot land is cheap, right? And in the meantime, while you're waiting to get bought out, and it will happen, it's just a matter of time. So then they can put in a skyscraper and you can hold them for ransom on that one too. Like you're going to make a lot of money. You're going to collect, a couple bucks a head, $7 a head to park there, right? Day in, day out. It's absolutely beautiful. That is something that is huge. Now it's a big undertaking, and I'm not expecting your neighbor to go out and start looking for this. I'm just trying to give people a heads up that I'm telling you, that's a winner, man. And that's how he made his millions, is off of a couple of parking lots. Mind you, it was in New York City at the time, but this is way back in the day when you could purchase stuff like that in New York City. But you could go in bumfuck Kansas somewhere in a small up and coming town that's just on the cusp of city growth. Mm-hmm. That's a ticket right there. And, anywhere in the Midwest or like anywhere where it's like not uber popular, because everybody's looking to find the next big real estate purchase in LA or New York or Miami. That stuff, that's where the sharks hang out. You don't want where the sharks hang out. You want to find where the little goldfish are, right? That's the sweet spot, right? Because you're working with goldfish type of money in that circle. So that's definitely one thing. Another thing I wouldn't necessarily do, and it's okay to do it on a smaller scale, is precious metals. Precious metals are always going to hold value, but there is a problem with precious metals that a lot of people don't realize. A lot of precious metals that you are going to purchase from the bank or anywhere else are only as good as the piece of paper, the certificate that it comes with, because again, you're dealing with central bank bullshit. Okay. Those precious metals are only good if you have that certificate with all the registration and everything with it. You can't just go and get rid of gold. It needs to be stamped, needs to be numbered, you need all that verification and all that paperwork. So you lose that piece of paper. I'm not saying your gold's no good anymore, but it's a fucking problem. It's a big problem. So precious metals are a little iffy. Before I go any further, what did you tell him?
Well, I told him, I said, I was upfront with him. I said, that's way beyond my expertise. I can't give you anything that's going to really help you right now. But the only thing I could add is if you're going to do anything right now, you should just wait, because we're at a lot of bubbles, whether it's real estate, whether it is the stock market being up where it is. Hold on to your cash right now and stay liquid. And if things go the way they look like they're especially here in Florida, where it really has boom and bust episodes, hold on to your cash and wait for something and scoop up some land. You know what I mean? And then when it recovers, you could probably do really well. That was just kind of like just some of my 2 cents.
No, that's perfect. That is literally flawless advice. That's exactly what I was about to go into. Right now, so on a personal side, I'm a very patient man when it comes to investment. All of the property that I own, if I told people what I picked it up for, it'd make them sick. And we're talking the piece of land that we're building our house right now. It was valued, it was appraised in 1982 or something like that. Or at 72 or 82, I can't remember now, at $1.2 million. And you got to remember where I am. That's in the middle of bumfuck Costa Rica. And that land back then was $1.2, $1.3 million. Well, I can tell you, I paid nowhere near that. If I told you, it'd make you fucking sick. I'm patient. I let things come to the palm of my hand. That's like all the property I have. The house I own, we've more than doubled up on it. The land, the other 3 pieces of parcels of land that we have, like dirt cheap, because you wait for the right opportunity. It's opportunity. That's kind of the big thing. Don't be in a rush. Don't be in a rush to just put your money somewhere, because that's where bad things happen. Because then you're just trying to get rich, right? And we've just done a video not that long ago about an investment of someone that is basically just trying to get rich. And well, we haven't heard any follow-ups. I don't believe she's received a payment from that. So yeah, don't be in a rush to put your money anywhere. But what Adam is saying is exactly correct. Right now, there are so many bubbles. And what I was getting at, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought. They were rambling. I've been sitting cash. I have a certain amount of cash that I am just waiting to scoop up. And I've talked about this probably years ago on an episode. And it was funny looking at the comments of people that it was opportunistic and vulturistic, what I was doing. You want people to lose their houses. No, you're a fucking dummy. I wouldn't wish that shit on anyone. But what I am waiting for is the next housing crash, because it is fucking coming. It's coming. And I'm sitting cash, and I am going to buy as many houses, as many pieces of land as I can. One person's misfortune is another person's fortune. And that's capitalism. God bless it. God bless it. Because It happens. It sucks, but that is life. When people don't make the best decisions and it catches up to them, it kind of is what it is. Do I feel for them? Yes, of course. Like I just said, I wouldn't wish that shit on anyone. But that is a fact of life and it happens. So knowing that is going to happen, I am waiting and I will be patient, because right now, what are you going to do? Buy a house that, 20 years ago, or not 20, but 10 years ago was a quarter of the value it is now?
Mm-hmm.
That's a real bad investment. How much
Around
further
here,
is it
less than
go?
that, 4 years ago.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And it actually brings up another story. That's an interesting story. I had someone come up to me, a friend that doesn't know how money works, but that's fine. Down here, and he wanted a little bit of a meeting, so he come over to the house and he goes, I've got a banger for you, Pat. I've got a hell of an investment opportunity. So I'm like, okay, what's up, right? And there is a building in town, and it's a perfect building. It's the building where there is a pharmacy, and then there are two other businesses on the lower level, on street level, and then above, I think there's 4 apartment houses in there. I believe it's 4 or 6. No, it's 4. And I looked at that years ago when it was for sale, and I passed on it then. But he's coming to me years and years later now, and saying it's a hell of an investment. And I said, well, what are they asking for it? Because a friend of his he bought it back then and is now selling it. And he goes, well, he's selling it for $750,000. And it's like, well, okay, but where's the upside? So you start crunching the numbers, as you do in any investment situation that he obviously never did. And you start looking at how could I get my money out of it, the return out of it. I think it took 13 years at full occupancy to break even. That's a long time. I don't wait 13 years for anything. It's too long to get $750,000 back out flush. And that's at full occupancy. It doesn't necessarily work like that around here, right? So that's that. And and then he goes, well, you could always sell it. Well, I could, but what could I sell it for? We're kind of maxed out on that. Are you telling me that that's a $1 million building where I could make $250,000, which wouldn't be bad? Well, it isn't. It's not a $1 million building. It's not a $1.5 million building. It is a $300,000, maybe $400,000 building. So the guy that bought it previous, he did well, and that's it. But just because somebody's selling doesn't mean I'm going to be the sucker buying. And that's how a lot of people get screwed. They think it's a good deal, but they don't crunch numbers. Mm-hmm. It's a problem. And it happens a lot. There's been a lot of people that have come to me with investment ideas, because I'm always looking for them. And I appreciate people coming to me with them, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to put my money in places if something comes up. But it's got to be the right deal, obviously, right? 99.9% of the time, they don't crunch the numbers. So if you come to me with an idea, please crunch your numbers first, and I'll happily invest if the numbers make sense. And a lot of people, I think another warning to people with investment is don't have any emotion attached to it. Like if you have personal interest in it, you don't want anything to do with it, because you're going to make an emotional decision. That's one thing that Chrissy and I always do. We have no problems walking at the slightest of resistance. So when we go into an investment, whether it be land or anything else, or to go in and partner up on some sort of a business or whatever, if there is even this much resistance or a problem in any way where it's like, this is kind of becoming a headache, we walk so fast from it, it makes people's heads spin. They don't know what hit them. Because if it's like that at the beginning, what's it going to be like once you get your money tied up? And then you're fucked. You don't want hard. You want easy. Okay. And there's lots of little ways, like I'll fill people in on another one of my little secrets. So there's lots of websites that you can access for free that will show what is owing on a mortgage or a piece of land, and they are that close to losing it and the bank taking it. So it's then very easy to reach out, make a deal with them, get it for a real good price, because at least they're walking away with something. It's either walk away with this or the bank's going to take it 30 days from now. It's like you have a choice. And again, this sort of information can sound very vulturistic, and maybe it is, to be perfectly honest. But again, that is what we live in. We live in a capitalistic society. And like I've said before, God bless capitalism, because a fucking nobody like me can make some fucking money, right? And you can't be afraid to make money, guys. If somebody's going to lose it anyways, why not offer them a deal where at least they can walk away with something, right? It's essentially how we get a lot of the land that we get down here for nothing. They're about to lose it because you're allowed to borrow 80% of the value of the land. And if you have a house on there, 80% of the value of the house. So you're basically looking at 160% of something that's worth at most 100%. You know what I mean? Like it's jacked, and they set these people up to fail. I didn't create the system. Don't get mad at me, right? I'm offering them a solution. When you can pick up pieces of land that are worth 150 grand for a lot, and you pick it up for 17K cash, hell yeah. You know, if you can pick up a quarter section of land for well under 100 grand, hell yeah, I'm going to take it. And it's about doing your homework. The next thing that I would say where to put your money is an investment group. Okay, now I'm not talking give your money to someone. Go online and go search in your community for investment groups. Investment groups are a great way to find people that are like-minded, that then pool their money together. It's all legal. It's all done with contracts. You got to find the right people, obviously, because working with people can be difficult. And if you're not good with working with people, then don't do it. But for people that can work with others and everything else, find the right group and you pool your money together. And I'll give you an example. There's one of the pharmacist friends that owns the pharmacy down here. He has an investment group, and he's always trying to get me involved with it. But I like doing things on my own, where I personally don't like doing that. And that's only because of my personality type. But anyways, he does that, and they build these big projects, and they all kind of pool their money together, where they'll put 50 grand in a piece, 20 grand in a piece, right? And they'll pool it together and build these big projects, and then they'll go ahead and sell it. But again, right now, I don't know if the climate's the best to do that, but there's other investments. You can invest in little businesses that you see a spark there, but you gotta, there's one thing that I agree with a lot of the people that you see on like Shark Tank and stuff like that. You're not necessarily investing in the product. You're investing in the person. You got to invest in the person. Does that person have the will and the drive to make it? Okay. So that's more of like a complicated answer to that question, because it's complex. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of moving pieces, but that is something that you can do. Adam brought something up a little while ago that we can say, like, why look at something like this as just one block of $100,000 or $1 million or whatever the investment is. You can basically chop it up. if you have 100 grand, you could make $10,000 investments or whatever the combination is. So there's a lot of different ways that we can slice it. And that's what it is. But to kind of wrap this up, you did give the perfect advice. We are in a bunch of bubbles right now. Hold it. Wait for the right opportunity. That is the best advice that I would give about, unless you come across a parking lot. If you come across a parking lot for that much money, absolutely buy it. Buy that right now with no hesitation. I'm telling you, I absolutely love that. And I'm always on the hunt. So if anyone's watching that has a parking lot for sale, hit me up in the comments, man. I'll be all over that shit. But be patient with your investments, guys. That's the best advice I can give. Seems to be Adam's advice as well. And that's about it. That's where I would put that 100 grand. Right now, I would just hold it. And as for $1 million, where would I put $1 million? Well, the answer is the exact same, right? Right now, it's about holding it. Again, it boils down to how much risk, what's your time frame, the whole nine. Because let's say we are in a bunch of bubbles right now. Well, at some point, the market will put in a new high. That the market is always designed like that. So let's say you put $1 million right in at the top on SPY right now. You might have to wait 5-10 years for it to come back to that price point. But 10 years after that, it'll be far above. Right? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, it depends on your time frame. What are you able to hold through that much pain? What's your pain tolerance? Right? There's a lot of questions that can be asked. But that's what I got, man. That was great. I hope this helps people. And yeah, fucking A, man. Thanks for the question.
Well, thanks. Yeah. No, I got, I'll go back to Glenn and let him know we talked about it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good, man.
All right.
Okay, guys. You have a good one. Thanks, Adam. Adios,
Thanks,
folks.